brothers and sisters. Thanks for joining me today. We are looking at You Shall Not Taste Death. This comes from Matthew chapter 16, verses 28. It says, Amen, I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man, the Son of Adam, coming in his kingdom. So the naysayers like to use this verse to discount the New Testament Mashiach, the Messiah. And they say that those people who are standing there never saw the return, that the Messiah didn't return before they died. And so these people died, therefore he is a false prophet, and the New Testament is not to be trusted. But are we understanding this correctly? Is that a correct interpretation? Those standing there shall not taste death until he returns. Is that what it's saying? Well, I have a different perspective on this. Those who study to show themselves approved like to view the scriptures through the Old Testament, through the Tanakh, through the original writings, and it helps us to understand the New Testament writings and some of the lingo or verbiage and the way it's communicated to us when we view it in that light. So this rhetoric of you shall not die is actually not something new that the Messiah came up with, but this is throughout the Old Testament Tanakh. Psalms 22:26 says, the meek shall eat and be satisfied. They shall praise Yahuwah that seek him. Your heart shall live forever. So there's a saying that you shall live forever. Numbers 4:19. But thus do unto them that they may live and not die. So living and not dying is a common phrase. Psalms 118:17. I shall not die, but live and declare the works of Yah. So when we're declaring the works of Yah, we are not dying, we are living. And so we shall live and not die. Ezekiel 18:28. Because he considers and turns away from all his transgressions that he has committed, he shall surely live, he shall not die. So if we use the naysayer's interpretation, this says you're going to live and not die. Well, that's what the Messiah is saying, is like we will live. We will live. In John 8:52, he's talking, the Messiah is here talking to the religious folks, right? The religious folks of his days, the zealots for the law, the so-called Jews, people that were hard of hearing, that had eyes but could not see, that he always spoke to in parables. And so they struggled with this idea as well. In John 8:52, then said the Yahudim, the Jews, now we know that you have a devil. Abraham is dead and the prophets, and you say, if a man guards my word, he shall never taste death. So their long-awaited Messiah, Mashiach, was standing right in front of them, and they couldn't even recognize him. Abraham was glad to see his day, and he says, I am he whose day Abraham looked forward to. Remember how Abraham said that Yah would provide the lamb? And verse 56, your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it. And then he goes on in verse 58, I am he whose day that Abraham saw. And what else are they missing here? Well, they're missing exactly what it is that he said, that they would see him coming into his kingdom before they die. And this isn't specifically talking about the return. So it's a misinterpretation. They interpret it as his return, but he says, I come into my kingdom, you shall see that. So we read that in chapter 26 of Matthew, chapter 16. In the context of what is written, he makes that statement in chapter 16. And then if you continue to read into chapter 17, what do we have? We have the Transfiguration. Matthew 17 verse 1, and after 6 days Yahusha takes up Kepha, Peter, James, and John, Yaakov and Yahuchanan, his brother, and brings them up into a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them, the Messiah was. And his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as light. And so they have this vision of the Messiah with his face shining, just similar to how Moses' face shined when he went up on the mount. And they see Moses and Elijah, potentially two witnesses, right? These are two witnesses, but they are having this vision, seeing him in his glorified state, in his transfigured metamorphosis. He'd been changed, right? So they have a vision. They see him in his kingdom as the resurrected Messiah. In verse 9, we know that this is a vision. It's not something that's literally happening, but it says in verse 9, they came down from the mountain. Yahushua charged them, saying, tell the vision to no man until the Son of Adam be risen again from the dead. So they're having a vision. They see the Messiah in his kingdom with the law and the prophets on his sides. And to add more context to this point, the point is that we don't taste eternal death or damnation because of the Messiah's sacrifice, because of what he did himself by laying down his life in service to people for his brothers, and that he shows us the way on how to love Yah and how to love his people. And we are perfected through life's struggles. We are perfected through sufferings, through the fire, through the trial, through the tribulation. When we hold fast and endure until the end, we are saved. Hebrews 2, 9 and 10. But we see that Yahusha, who was made a little lower than Elohim for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of Elohim, should taste death for every man. For it became him, for whom all are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons into glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. So he is that way. He is the author and finisher of our faith, that we lean into and understand the ways of the Father, and we shall live. We will live now on this life, in this life, prosperous and healthy, if we obey the commands, if we obey the Son, if we do the Father's will as the Son did. And for eternity, we won't be a part of that second death. We'll be a part of the first resurrection. That eternal death, we won't taste it. We won't be a part of that, because he took that on for us and showed us the way unto life. And that way is Yah's word. It's his Torah. It's his entire book from Genesis 1:1 to Revelation 20:21, 22, right? The whole book. So that is how we live. We live by the word, and we don't taste death. Hope this bless you. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hit that like button, or slightly press it, and we'll see you on the next one. Shalom.